Awesome. Okay. All right. So for today, this is our agenda. We did a quick opening. We're just going to touch on CWN technical assistance and the support team that will be here to support y'all through this project and this journey. We'll also touch on SNAP-Ed funding structure and some resources. We'll talk about project goals and some scope of work deliverables. And then we'll kind of wrap up with processes and procedures and then leave some time for questions at the end. Hopefully we can maybe make it under an hour, but we're here, to really be here for y'all and really discuss any questions that y'all might have. All right, let me give one more. There we go. One more click. So I think we've kind of had the opportunity to meet and talk with y'all, but we're the Center for Wellness and Nutrition. We are a program of the Public Health Institute. We're Sacramento based, but we work with and provide support to local, state, and national partners and projects. We work to promote wellness and equitable practices through our vision, which is a healthy nation where wellness is achievable for all. And we do that through our mission, which is to build capacity and leadership with institutions and organizations in order to make that happen. So I think we've all had an opportunity to kind of like have our first experience and touch base within our technical assistants. I've coordinated those as reoccurring meetings on our calendar, just so we have that time allotment for us to check in, answer any questions or discuss any project challenges. Also, look at the successes that y'all are having within your project. We will have a diverse team on those calls to support you. And we'll kind of jump into that on the next slide. And just really provide any support and technical assistance as it arrives. As I discussed on our previous technical assistance calls, not like a formal agenda. We like to keep those free flowing and allow that time for us to discuss really whatever is needed from your team. So excited to look, to get into those, and as things pop up, we can discuss them more on those technical assistance calls. So as mentioned, this is our CWN team listed on the screen. We do have a few of us that are here on the call, but also some who are not. Stephanie Carrillo, who's our Deputy Director of Programs. Myself and Mitri Munyon, who will be joining and supporting on those technical assistance calls. Some of y'all have met Brian. I think Brian was on both of our first technical assistance calls, so you got to chat with him, Lasagna Romero, and then also Jamie Frederick, who's our Assistant Director of Research and Evaluation. So a good, diverse group of knowledge to support your projects. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass off the mic to my colleague, Mitri Munyon, who's going to get us started.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jesse. So I'm going to do a little bit of an overview, as Jesse said, on, the funding for this work, the overall vision of this project specifically, dig in a little bit on your project goals, but then I want to spend a lot of time looking at some of the processes, the quarterly reports and the invoicing processes more particularly. So I'm going to go through some of these slides rather quickly. By all means, if you have any questions along the way, let me know, raise your hand, come off mute. We can talk about any of the topics. A lot of the resources that we're going to share have links built into this PowerPoint. So we'll be sharing that PowerPoint with you so that you can access all of the links. On the screen, it just really shows you the funding structure for the work that we're doing together, recognizing that this funding starts at the federal level with the USDA, and it comes in through the Division of Family and Children Services in the state of Georgia, to CWN and to each of your organizations to kind of do this initial community work. Next slide, Jesse. So SNAP-Ed, you you guys have been working a little bit on this project for the past couple of months, so hopefully we're a little more familiar with the funding. But in an overview, SNAP-Ed is a nutrition education program that is geared at providing nutrition education to low resource, low income community members that qualify for SNAP or other means tested services in the state of Georgia. And so overall, SNAP goes hand in hand with, or I'm sorry, SNAP-Ed goes hand in hand with those SNAP benefits. Next slide. So there are three main goals with SNAP-Ed, primarily to increase nutrition education among this population specifically, with the goal to increase access to fresh produce, fresh fruits and vegetables, increase that in the diet, and to increase access to clean, free drinking water, and access to physical activity specifically. Now, this is done through nutrition education as well as through policy systems and environmental change approaches that make choices and decisions in communities easier to make that healthier choice. Primarily, we are working on those goals within SNAP-Ed in general. And there's, as I said, a little bit more information on the general SNAP focus on the link that's on the page. Next slide, Jesse. Digging in a little bit deeper, really, we're looking to have an influence on interventions that make it easier to change the healthy habits rather than change the individual choices, primarily in an attempt to have an impact on nutrition-related chronic diseases such as obesity, hypertension, a lot of different nutrition-related diseases that are prevalent in the communities we serve. Primarily, really, we're looking to just help make that healthy choice the easy choice in the communities that need it the most. Let me go to the next slide, Jesse. There are primarily when we're looking at SNAP-Ed specifically, there is a focus on reaching the specific target audience, being low income individuals that are eligible for SNAP benefits, but it's not excluded to only community members that have been receiving SNAP benefits. We open it also to community members that are either receiving benefits from other means tested federal assistance programs, or community members that reside in communities that are significantly low income. Primarily, we work with low-income populations across that are eligible for SNAP. So whether they are receiving SNAP benefits or not is not really the focus, but if they are eligible for SNAP, then they are eligible for SNAP-Ed benefits. And I think we saw a lot of this as we're looking at your particular plans and the communities that you guys are serving. You are working with populations that may or may not be on SNAP. Some of your programs may be supporting community members in actually applying for SNAP benefits. We are interested in those, that larger population in general. Next slide. SNAP-Ed works in a variety of settings, and it's really everywhere that you eat, play, work, go to school. So everything from schools and early care to worksite settings, retailers, farmers markets, food banks, out of school time. There's a variety of different settings in which we're working with SNAP-Ed. On the next slide, we look at what the site locations for Georgia SNAP-Ed specifically looks like. And so you can see on this map where the prevalence of nutrition and Georgia SNAP-Ed activities are existing across the state of Georgia. We see that there's like a high, there is absolutely, we will share the PowerPoint slides at the end. there is a prevalence of a lot of activities happening in the Metro Atlanta area. And we can see through the color codes that there's a lot of rural parts of Georgia that have a little less programming. And so part of the whole goal of this project and a lot of the efforts coming out of the state of Georgia this year and the next year is to expand the partnerships that we have in play to reach populations and communities that could be better served by these resources. And the next slide. This is just getting a little more granular, looking at the state of Georgia specifically, the types of projects that exist across the state. We've got community gardens, student health advocates in the school settings. There's a food e-talk program. There's a Hydrate My State program across the state that works at promoting drinking water as opposed to sugary beverages. Prescription programs, food policy councils. There's a variety of different initiatives through the different funded agencies in the state of Georgia that's working towards this goal across the state. So on the next slide, there is all of the work that's happening in the state of Georgia and across all SNAP-Ed is really done utilizing the SNAP-Ed plan guidance. And so this guidance provides states, local implementers with clear kind of processes and procedures, regulations for how we are to administer nutrition education and policy systems and environmental change approaches in our work. And so often, as you'll see in our technical assistance calls and in the work that you're doing collaborating with the CWN team, we will be referencing these resources on a regular basis to make sure that we're keeping things aligned to SNAP-Ed guidance. This is definitely a resource that we recommend you bookmark and have access to. As I said, all of the links in this PowerPoint will be made available to you. It is a good place to dig in and just double check the processes that you have planned and make sure that they are allowable and in compliance with this particular guidance. With that said, we do not anticipate, so this is a near 300 maybe 300 plus page resource that changes on an annual basis. And so it's one that our team is very intimate with and we work with on a regular basis. And so we are here, that's part of our technical assistance to you. If you have questions or something is unclear or you need support in finding any guidance, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us, Jesse, myself, or Brian can always kind of help you find the answers that you need through our work with SNAP-Ed in Georgia and other states. The likelihood that we've kind of come across this question before is pretty high, and so we have a good system for tracking down and connecting folks to the answers that they need in this guidance. So just wanted you to know that that is a resource for you as we are. Thanks, Brian, for dropping that link in. Let's go to the next slide. The other resource that is a resource to you is the SNAP-Ed Toolkit. And so this is also a frequent flyer as far as one that our team references on a regular basis, and specifically with the emphasis on the needs assessment and evaluation activities. And so within this resource, you'll find a searchable database of interventions, the evaluation framework that we use to guide this project, of an assortment of training resources, a glossary of the key terms. I like to say that SNAP-Ed functions in a world of alphabet soup where there are acronyms for everything. And if somebody is using an acronym and you don't know what that means, that glossary is really amazing for helping you find what that information is. There's also a full segment dedicated to policy systems and environmental changes where you can learn and explore different approaches approaches that can be implemented and are being implemented in other states and communities. So this too is a resource to kind of make sure that you are aware of. I frequent the toolkit, but I can't say that I frequent it as often as our expert Brian does. And so again, you have our full team's expertise available to you for technical assistance. Yes, thank you. So with that, I wanted to just caveat into like the goals of this particular funding. Just to recap them, I know you've gone through a kickoff training where we talked about some of this, and so I'm not trying to, re-preach what you've already talked about, but wanting to spend a little bit of time looking at, one of the major project goals of this year is to complete the policy systems and environmental change needs assessments that you guys are working on currently. And that is the primary goal of this contract year's project, with the intent that it will build into the opportunity to take this funding or this project to the next level, hopefully, and at which time we will also be addressing a readiness assessment to look at if we've identified a need for policy systems and environmental change. Let's then look at the readiness to address that need, and what that looks like practically in the community itself. Next slide. The other part of the goal is to really assess the partnerships available through your organization to administer or to complete a policy systems and environmental change approach to meet the needs of the population. So really looking at that needs assessment you're doing and how do we prepare ourselves to take what is perceived or what the information says is a need and move that into active partnerships that can support an active project in the community. So those are the two project goals that have been listed out, and just pointing out briefly at the bottom again, like our alphabet soup or our code that is written in the slides, I apologize, ST7, ST8, these are indicators that tie to the toolkit that I just highlighted. And so that's where our technical assistants can support you in identifying the appropriate indicator to be looking for or working towards. And that's something that we'll be doing with you along the way through our technical assistance calls. Again, all of these links are here. Huge thanks to whoever's dropping them in. Brian, I appreciate you. Let's go to the next slide. So the final goal of this project is to be able to submit a SNAP-Ed proposal to be funded for implementation of a nutrition education and PSE approach for next year. Now, federal fiscal year 2024 begins in September, and those applications are going to be opened pretty soon. And so as soon as they are open, we'll be communicating that information to you all. We recognize you are in needs assessment mode, and we want to continue with those needs assessments, but we also want to be looking at the next year and how we can build this work into the opportunity to actually transfer it into on the groundwork with nutrition education and PSE in your community. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with the just so that we have a context as we're going along through the year, do we know what those funding amounts or awards are? We know what we're working with this year, but just in the spirit of transparency and when we're working with communities, that's one of my pet peeves is not knowing and, playing this shooting darts in the air game. It's just, it helps to know.
Agreed. I I do not have that answer for you, Wande. I do know that there is an estimate that is out there, and I don't want to misspeak and put the wrong number out there. I know that it is more than you're getting this year, but I think that it is dependent on what your community program looks like, how many initiatives, how big the community is, what the output of your project looks like. What I can commit to doing is considering that the two of your agencies are in a unique position and moving from this funding year to the next, I can talk with Latrice about providing some guidance on recommendations for what to include for that dollar amount. The funding proposal is a format that you outline what your project is going to do and what the associated cost is. But I hear you very clearly, like knowing what's acceptable parameters would help you in your planning. I know that's not an answer, but is that helpful?
Yes, I mean, no, but I hear you. I mean, I don't know what else to say
Yeah,
to that. It's not helpful, but I hear you.
yeah. So I can commit to following up and getting you an answer, but I just don't want to misspeak,
Okay,
especially not having the full information in front of me.
okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, Jesse, any other questions? I thought Cynthia was coming off mute. No? Okay, next slide. So yeah, this is just kind of a visual of the major milestones, looking at the needs assessment plans or the IRB processes that you guys are currently working through, today's training and any other trainings that are supportive to your work. Participation in the monthly calls and quarterly reports, which I'm going to go over later, and then the end of year convening, which is that opportunity. I think on one of the TA calls, it was brought up, what is this opportunity at the end? This end of year convening is going to be the opportunity for your agency to share the progress that was made this year, and report out on kind of an elevator's pitch or a perspective of what your program for federal fiscal year 24 is planned to be. And we will be convening that at the end of the year. And then coordinate on a final report product with our team, which we'll support you with. Let's go ahead and keep going to the next slide. I think that's the end. So yeah, that's just really overview on the process, on the funding structure and project overview. I'll pause and see if there's any questions before we go into kind of our processes and procedures for quarterly reporting and invoicing. Okay. Okay. So quarterly reporting is going to be provided in an Excel template, very similar to the scope of work template that you worked in. For the quarterly reports, we're asking for a narrative summary of the general progress that you've made for that quarter, progress to date on any successes, challenges, and any technical assistance that you need. And I can give you a preview of what that looks like on the next slide. And so forgive the small font, but as I mentioned, it is in Excel format. And so when you think about all of the objectives that are built into your scope of work, for every activity, there's going to be a column for you to report out on progress to date, challenges you've had, and the technical assistance that you need, or any notes on technical assistance or training that's needed to support you in completing that particular activity. This is not meant to be a, comprehensive 10-page report, but this is supposed to be a way for you to quickly and concisely, in a few words, share updates on the activities that you're doing. We're trying not to belabor kind of the need for a prim and proper kind of report that is going to sit on the shelf, but rather for us to really be able to look at every activity and say, all right, where are we with that? What challenges have been experienced, and where can we better support your success? So when you get this cell, all of the cells that are in front of you right now that are white will actually be yellow. And so that's your indicator that you need to fill in that cell. So even if it's just an NA, we haven't started this, we're not at that level, absolutely fine. Put in A, nothing to report is acceptable, but we want you to kind of walk through every cell so that we know that you're considering if there are any successes, challenges, or needs for every activity. The next phase of this, if you go to the next slide, Jesse, you'll see once you submit it, we will kind of follow back up. We'll add our response comments to your quarterly report. So often you may say that, progress, you'll report the progress, and we'll just kind of recognize that progress, maybe make an internal note that, hey, this activity is completed, there's nothing to move forward on, or this project or this activity is continuing. It's kind of our track record to make sure that we're on the same page on activities specifically. And when we share that additional feedback back with you, we will update the next quarter's report. So like I said, this is in Excel, so the quarter 2, as we see there, is hidden until after quarter 1 is completed, and then we'll open quarter 1 and you can see it. This information is used to report back to the state directly on the progress of the entire project. So yeah, your participation in this is appreciated. I'll pause. I know it's a unique format. Folks aren't always used to it. Sometimes people like Excel, sometimes people don't. Any questions? Okay. Next slide. So invoicing should be done in alignment with your funding structure that was built into your contract. And so we have an invoice template that is built into your contract file that has your scope of work and your quarterly report template in it all together. The invoice template is meant to be a guide. You can use it or not, but it does depict the format of which we need your invoices to look. So let's take a look at what that looks like on the next slide. So primarily what's important is that your invoices are sent to invoices@wellness.phi.org as a PDF. We would appreciate you including the CWN agreement number on your invoice specifically. And since this is a deliverable-based scope of work, you would include the specifics for the objective and the activity that you're billing for and the amount that you are billing. And total those up and submit your invoice. Just for ease of kind of speeding up the process to make sure that you get invoices paid as soon as possible, I recommend CCing myself or Jesse, and when you submit your invoice, those have to be verified by our team, and so I like to proactively verify for our fiscal team as quickly as possible to make sure that contractors get paid as soon as possible. So if we know that that's coming in, then we can kind of be a little more proactive and on our fiscal team to get that processed as quickly as possible for you. So you can CC us, but all invoices should be sent to invoices@wellness.phi.org. Also, just as a side note, so we're not requiring that you submit timesheets or receipts with your invoices. That's not a requirement of this project funding, but we do encourage that you save them for your records. If for some reason we're audited or something has happened, they may want to look for those receipts and timesheets to see that you have them on your records. So it's encouraged that you keep them just in your own records keeping for your contract file. Next slide. I think that's really it for contracting and the invoicing and quarterly reports process. I have written down the note about next year's funding amount and we'll follow back up on that. But I think, Jesse, this is a time where we want to leave space for any additional questions of
Claire, can I clarify, Mitra? It's not
Yeah.
really the funding amount, but what's available. Like if there's if there's 100,000 in the treasury or 200,000 in the treasury or half a million in the treasury, that just gives me an
Okay.
idea. But if there's 50,000 in the treasury, then that
Yeah.
like the proposals is just going to look differently. You know what I mean? So that helps me. If there's 2 organizations on here or 3 organizations, that it's just if it's coming down from the feds, I don't know if Georgia gets one pot of money and somebody else gets another pot of money. It just helps me put things in. You know, I might not put down that we want to go to Japan to do some whatever kind of dissertation. I don't know, but
No, I
that
understand.
helps. Okay.
No, that does. Thank you, because that is a different ask.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That helps, and I can reach out to Latrician team and see what we can get you.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question around the templates and the invoices. Are you going to send it in an email after this training? So we have the templates.
Yes, we can. Jesse, let's make sure that they get their full files.
With the PowerPoint, if possible.
Yeah, the PowerPoint for sure. But each of you had different files, so we'll make sure. And
Oh.
apologies, we, took over for Sandra after leaving. If you guys have not seen those templates yet, I do apologize. We'll make sure that you have them. And by all means, if you get them and you have additional questions, we can look over that more in our technical assistance calls as well, or reach out anytime you have questions.
Perfect.
Others? It's pretty straightforward, but wanted to make sure you have the the space to kind of digest it. We recognize we're using templates that probably you haven't seen before, and so wanting to make sure we give you the space to kind of process and understand how those work. I do have one other point, and one day I have information that came to me yesterday about the direct deposit capabilities. So I have a form for you and I will send it to you, and it is free and you can sign up for direct deposit. So I just wanted to share that update. I have the email here, and I had said I look forward to seeing you, and I never sent it. So I will send as soon as we're done. Cynthia, did your team sign up for direct deposits or have that made available? Would you like the form as well?
Yes, just in case. It's just Whitney's not here in the meeting.
Yep.
And she is taking care of the invoices and reports. Obviously we help with that, but I just wanted to her be aware of all of these forms and processes.
Yep, absolutely. So I will send that form along. It took me a minute to get people to come on, what's going on, people? This is Again, the 21st century. Yes. So thank you. So that's good news. Anything else, folks? And I'm not a fan of meeting to meet. We're a little bit early. This is your space if you have questions, but if you feel confident and you feel good and we've covered the information, I'm also happy to give you some time back.
I think it's straightforward.
Okay.
so.
Wonderful.
Yeah, no questions on my end, but thank you for taking the time on, how good the PowerPoint looked. It was very informative, so I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you
All
for your
right.
time, and we'll get back to you if there's any other question from our side. Thank
Wonderful.
you.
Thank you all. We will follow up with answers to big questions, PowerPoints and templates. And other than that, we will be in touch.
Okay. Take care then.
Thanks,
Have a
Cheryl.
good
Thanks,
week.
guys.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.